Okay, everybody take a nice big breath. Talking to myself. Made it, it's Shabbat. I know that some of you guys are being tested a little bit more than what you would like, but remember that is about God's love for you. I believe I've received another word from Father, but I'm waiting for it to play out. Remember I shared with you that section from Jeremiah? So they come into my house, there's fornication, there's adultery, there's murder, there's stealing, there's other things going on. I said, Abba, I hope you're talking about it from a spiritual standpoint, using Yeshua's blueprint. As I've said to you guys before, Abba has a habit of bringing what is hidden in the dark out to the light. The reason it has to come out is because we have to deal with it. All of the external examples of those sins have to do with something to do with the heart condition. Now, my job is not supposed to beat the people because they sin. I myself have problems that I have to deal with. My job is to point you in the direction of the Father so that He can deal with your sin. This is what this season's about. If God puts you in situations where you feel out of depth and you see things come out that's ugly, it's because there's a root that needs to be dealt with. Please take the time. They're trying to show you something that's only hurting you. And we repeat that same cycle unless we deal with it. Okay. So stay tuned. I'm holding on to my talit. That within the 7th month there's going to be more revelation. I'm not going to say more until it does. Okay? Everybody happy? Crash landing in Friday, Saturday. It's lovely. And say the bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan haTorah. Amen. Amen. Blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe, who gives the Torah of truth and the good news of salvation to His people Israel and to all the peoples through His Son Yeshua the Messiah, Lord. Amen. Amen. All right, 1 Peter. Look at that. Like turn into the book. Okay, so if my memory serves me correctly, we eventually finished chapter 1. Just take time, just process. Deep breath. I know it's a bit of a shock, guys, but let's look to Abba and let's try and just get some peace, all right? Let's dive into chapter 2. He carries on his thought process. What was his thought from the previous chapter? Someone read for me from verse 22 of chapter 1. This is the interactive portion. Mikey's got it.
Now that you have cleansed your lives and obeyed the truth of the Spirit to unfeigned brotherly love, love one another fervently with clean hearts.
Okay, so he's talking about purification and obeying truth. What is truth? Torah, right. So God has defined these things already. Remember, Peter understands these things from his Hebraic perspective. He carries on with it. He says in chapter 2, verse 1, remember, there were no page breaks and verses. Just one letter, start to finish, and we've broken it up, okay? Therefore, rid yourselves of all malice, of all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and all the ways they were speaking against people. Who is he dealing with here? Is he dealing with a bunch of unbelievers? No. He's dealing with people who know Yeshua. He deals with people who has forgiveness of sin. He's dealing with us. Rid your old selves. Rid yourselves of. Get rid of who you were. Where should that penny have dropped long before this point? When did you want to let go of the old creation and become a new creation? What point in your spiritual walk did that happen? Baptism. At baptism, it's about letting me die. No more. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to think like that. I don't want to react like that. I don't want to commit that same cycle that I've been doing for the past 10, 15, 20 years. I don't want to repeat these things, Abba. So I'm willing to die so that you can make me into whom I need to be. He understands you better than you understand you. He understands why he made you. And he's got a unique calling for your life. Right. Let's be silly for a second, shall we? Let's like being silly from time to time. What is this? Alice band. I disagree. Shapes. Completely works, right? How do you know this is not the correct way? Your shapes. One is fine.
Not very effective.
Right, we know that the function of that, the person who designed this with something in mind, correct? Can I go to the designer and tell him, no, you got it wrong? So why do you tell God he doesn't know what he's doing with your life? Why do we hold on to things he told you to let go? No, you know better. You understand. You only wanted to give him half of the old creation. And you come out clinging to things, and then he goes, okay, you obviously misunderstood, so let's have this conversation. And that conversation is called the wilderness. I got you out of Egypt, now I need to get Egypt out of you. The penny didn't drop when you crossed the Red Sea. You're not slaves anymore, you're not Egyptians anymore, you don't worship there. God's we're doing it differently. This is the new way. This is what's going to give you life. This is truth. This is your only reality. And what did they keep on saying throughout the wilderness? It sounded very similar to what you said. Only ended with, back in Egypt we did. You see, much like Lot's wife, you never actually look towards your Creator. You're so busy looking at your past. The way things used to happen, the way things used to be, and what happens is nostalgia kicks in, and you remember all the good times when you were unsaved, correct? Now, if you're like me, I remember all the stupid stuff. And I have to do the other thing. I have to be like, I'm no longer that person. But I see other people struggle with it differently. They look back and they go, no, okay, was it really that bad? We were young. Well, I wasn't really wrong there. Life was easier then. So all of those good times and not that bad got you to a point when you decided it was so horrible and fraught that you wanted to throw away. 3 years on the other side of it, and you're like, well, actually, maybe I shouldn't have cried so quickly. And that's when Abba normally gets to the point and he says, you want Egypt, turn around. It was such a powerful moment in Torah for me. He looks at them and he says, 10 times they tested him, 10 times they went up against him, 10 times they grumbled. And then they get close and then he says, turn around and go towards this place, towards Egypt. And I stopped and I thought, imagine the shock and horror that must have reverberated through that person's heart. I like Egypt, I like Egypt, I like Egypt. Well, then go home. You obviously don't want to be with me. No, we're ready to go now. I was just thinking out loud. But what comes out of your mouth, what happens in your mind, eventually is what you're going to do, and how you're going to act, and what you're going to become. I cannot stress that enough. If you focus on nonsense, that's all your life is going to be focused. If you focus on God, that's all your life is going to be focused. How many of you don't know what you're doing? Right? It should be everybody. We pretend like we know what we're doing, but we don't. Who does? Abba. So if I don't go to him, how am I going to get perspective? How am I going to get peace? How am I going to be able to let go, knowing that he loves me enough that he's already taken care of the next 10 years, never mind the next 5 minutes? He's not surprised about where you are. You are, though. Amazingly enough, we're the deluded ones. And he's like, you think you guys have arrived, you're still carrying a golden calf on the inside of your heart, and you want to tell me I don't know what I'm doing? Let the golden calf go so that I can actually reign there, so that you can become who you were called to be. Guys, you're going to let that moment, that mikvah was there so that the whole person is gone. Like I said, I had a really weird visualization technique for me, okay? I read a commentary and there was a guy that was saying, put yourself on the tree. That's you. Okay? You're standing there with Yeshua, you've been nailed to it. That person is dead, he's gone. I took it a step further. Every time I choose to do what God has called me to do, to become the person I need to be now, walking away from the old creation, it was as if the old creation was still alive, but I took a bigger nail every time I said, no thanks, and I hit it again. And I said, you stay there. You're not getting off. Why didn't we go to the pub? Why don't we celebrate Pesach? Let's go to the movies. It's Friday night. Shabbat Shalom. And I would continually wrestle with my thoughts and continually to choose, because I'm not that anymore. So I'm going to act differently. I'm going to think differently. I'm going to do this differently. Materialistic things, family issues, acceptance problems. I left that when he died. Now, granted, there are little things that creep in and we don't deal with, and God goes, aha! But that's on the top surface. That's not the deep-rooted stuff that we hold on to. Satan is the one tugging on that old creation string, and he's going, yeah, you thought you got away, but you didn't. Look in the mirror. Tell me you're different. If you're only focusing on yourself, what are you going to see? He says, I'm not going to look in the mirror. I'm going to go to my Father, and he's going to tell you I'm different. It's his perspective. It's his viewpoint. It's his reality, not mine. So all of those issues in the past, guys, you've got to learn to cut it. You've got to let Abba cut it. They didn't want to play with me. My mommy never had time for me. I'm not trying to make light of these things, but these are the things we carry for 20, 30 years. Something your parents said in passing have affected your entire life and your viewpoint because you believed it just long enough for Hasatan to use it. How can that affect a new creation? Should it be able to? No. Because that died with them. I'm not loved. God loved me enough that he died for me. Who cares about what they think? Who cares about what they had to experience? Who cares? Let that go. I don't like living in that anyway. Let me become the person you called me to be. Creator, show me who I am so that I don't have to return to that way of thinking. I don't have those thoughts. I can become something new. I can become something greater. The problem is we're just not getting it. I'm trusting Father to do a deep work that if you haven't got it yet, man, he's got to get it out. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with this again and again and again. What does it mean? It says, rid yourselves of malice. What's malice? You have any other translations there? We'll give you an indication.
Evil.
Evil. Oh, okay. Rid yourself of all evil. Like, that's already a problem. What else have you got? I went back and I looked at the Greek. It means wrath or slander. That just comes in all things. Deceit is the next thing. So malice has to be something else. Let go of all anger. Let go of all frustration, or let go of all slander. How many of you notice when you're really grumpy, you're very quick to lash out with the tongue? That person doesn't say hello to you. Oh, the next week you know it. 15 people know that that person didn't reach you. Oh, so like your bum doesn't stink. You come over here and you think you've got it all figured out. Oh, you're right. I don't think so. Is sometimes it doesn't even have to fly past your lips. You've already thought it 13 times in your heart. He says, rid yourself of it. Get rid of it. Toss it out. He said, of all deceit. How many of you have been deceitful to someone you love? Have you not deceived your children, maybe? No, I'll give you the sweetie tomorrow. They won't remember, it'll be fine. As we practice, we do. If you have no intention, be upfront and be honest and say what it is. Deception, deceit. Where does deception come from, you think? Is that not what Hasatan did in the garden? Twist a little bit of truth at a slightly enough angle for it to be sellable. But he quoted scripture, it's fine, he must know what he's talking about. No, we took scripture out of context, but because you didn't know the difference, you fell for it. He knew what he was talking about. He knew he was taking it out of context. And he got you to do something you thought was okay. Hypocrisy. What's a hypocrite? It's an actor. An amazing thing in Roman world that you understand, we spoke about Peter's life and theaters and Vecian and all those things. Actors were called hypocrites. So you stand on the stage, you act like you're dying, but we know on the inside you're fine. But you take it to the next level, well, that becomes your facade, that becomes your life. How many of you have ever been in a church or a shul or some sort of fellowship where the people are one way for about an hour and a half until they get into the car and then they're gone? Gone more ways than one. You know, it's been something that I think we failed to understand in this house. And I've said it many a times to people. I said, I don't want to see your church face. I want to see you. If you're falling apart, that's okay. That we can deal with. If you're struggling with sin, or you're struggling with rebellion, or you're struggling with something else, come and let's be honest. We can deal with this. Hide. Well, that's when things start to fester. That's when things start to get ugly. And you pretend to care about God. This is the biggest thing about this list, guys. You need to understand it affects him more than it affects you. When you sin, remember, it's not just hurting other people, it's sticking your finger in God's eye first. But it's just a little bit. Envy. What is envy about? Jealousy. There's a 10th commandment that should cover this. You cover it. You're jealous about other people's situations. You're jealous about their bank balance. You're jealous about their house. You're jealous about their jobs. You're jealous about how pretty they look. You're jealous about their bodies. You're jealous about their cars. You're jealous about their dogs. And you start to covet it. How many of you, when you were really close to God and you were looking up, how much coveting do you think you did? It doesn't even enter into your mind. You don't go, oh, well, I saw the throne room of God. I really want that chair. You flat on your face and you realize, well, he's God and you're not. Like, oh, look at that angel sparkly belt. No. It doesn't even enter materialistic breakdown of society. I cannot be happy for my fellow brethren because God blessed him with something. I look up and I go, but why don't I have one? So if someone gets a new car, we can't celebrate with them. There's a route inside where it goes, but I've been driving that for 15 years. Why hasn't God given me a new car? And we take the joy out of it completely. You get people who feel guilty because they've been blessed with something. It says of all the ways there are of speaking against people. Man, if you didn't learn anything from me, you'll learn now. There is a point where God will say, make right with your brother. Or your offering is no longer acceptable. Yeshua said it. Leave your offering at your altar, go make right with him, and then you come back and then you make your offering. Slandering someone is as good as beating them. Let me give you a silly example, right? You drive this point home. A guy starts a ministry maybe, and he goes out, now he's a bit new with this, so he's freaking out and he doesn't understand that his Bible as much as what he should, but God has called him to step out in faith. So you go there and you listen to him and he maybe gets one or two things wrong. And you decide that that's not the place for you, so you leave. And you make sure you warn all your friends about that pastor. No, he doesn't do things right. He's out of context. Hey, if you don't have context, you got nothing. You know, watch out, he's a false prophet. He's a false teacher, definitely. But he said God told him to teach, and it's obviously that he can't. So you tell 50 people, there's one person in that 50 that God had already prepared because of this teacher's personality type to collect that single person. But because of your warning and your gossip and your slander, that person will never meet that person or trust that person, but it might actually be a word from God. You've just stolen salvation in God's plan at that point. So now God has to make up another plan because you don't know the difference between immaturity and false. You don't know the difference between love and slander. I'm telling you this because I love you and there's a warning involved. No, if you really love them, you would say, listen, brother, I don't know if you noticed, I see that you're new to this, but can I help you maybe a little bit with that? Can we have coffee sometime? I see you nervous. Can we chat? Do we actually lift up our leaders? Do we lift up our teachers? Or do we just pull out our black and white stickers and say, you're wrong, we're right, you're there, we're here? Where's the love of this beyachad, this kacha, this community of God, if we don't even give each other the room to grow? Could I look at you and do the same thing and say, oh, shame, you guys don't have it figured out. Hey, why don't you go sit alone for a little bit because you are not Talmidim. You don't do half the things I say. You even do less of what God says. Would that be fair? Or would you go, no, I'm still learning. How many years of learning? Just when you think you know it all, he introduces you to a teacher who blows your mind, and then you go, I know nothing. Many times. Like, I got this guy that figured out, and then he introduced me to Paleo Hebrew, and a guy called Brand Scott, and it hurt my brain probably for the next 6 months after that. And then I started to get a little grasp on it, enough to know enough of how it works. And then he'll send you a different guy, and then he'll be like, no, but look at this. I've shown him something slightly different. And what I love about my journey is that God used very different teachers. Very different. And I can look at them back and I can go, that was amazing. That part I disagree with, but it's fine. I still think he's an amazing teacher. God help him with that little part there because he doesn't see that yet. Even though the words coming out of his mouth should tell him he believes it, but he doesn't know how to wrap it around his brain. And we look at these men and women and we are so quick to slap a false sticker or a sheep or a wolf sticker on wherever they come from, and we forget that we ourselves don't do much better. If he's a teacher and he's standing up to try and teach and he's trusting God to do it, how many people have you tried to teach and hope you get everything right? Guys, this is just one example. We need to take stock. It's not as easy as we make it out to be. Sometimes your head runs away from you and then you say the wrong name. I've done that probably like, 50 times. Written down wrong verses in wrong places and then looked and go, well, okay, maybe that's not the right verse I was looking for. It's somewhere else. But because you have given me grace and you've allowed me to grow, God has dealt with me to be able to step up each time. And hopefully I'm getting better at this thing. And that's not because I'm trying anything different, it's because I'm leaning hard. We're all going to grow into our callings. As disciples, we have to grow until we become teachers. Until you start to teach, you don't understand what it is. And when you start to teach, and then you realize you've got a lot more to grow because you don't grasp the things. It's a very interesting process, and it's with every gift we have. Give yourself the space, but don't get into the place where it's about envy, hypocrisy, deceit, and guys, it is love. He says, be like newborn babies, thirsty for the pure milk of the word, so that by it you may grow up into deliverance, for you have tasted that Adonai is good. Become like babies. How many of you have been around people long enough to realize you can see a 50-year-old man throw a spectacular tantrum? I've seen some ladies do the same. And you sit and you look at them, and I don't know what it is, but somehow God gives you a little level of discernment, and instead of looking at their physical age, mature, you look at the spiritual age, and then you understand which level they are, and then you can deal with them accordingly. It was a unique and exciting thing for me to look back and go, I've seen this action somewhere before. But I've been in church 20 years, I'm not a baby believer. Yeah, but you haven't been fed for 20 years, so you're still kind of immature. And I don't say that to belittle it. I understood that I was immature when I came in. But if you've been in a place where you've been there for 50 years and there's no growth, we have a problem. Number one, you're not drinking. Who wakes up first? Baby or mommy normally? How many of you are crying out for the milk? In Hebrews, it talks about this milk and meat, and we get to this place where I need meat. And I was listening to Hebrews, and I'm just like, do you really understand what that process is? He talks to them in the book of Hebrews, and he says, I can't even give you meat because you don't even understand the basics of our doctrine. You don't understand salvation. You don't understand Yeshua. You don't even understand Torah properly, and now you want me to talk about the spiritual things. That's the meat. We come in here, and I've seen it before in so many Hebraic roots movement. We pat ourselves on the back and we say, we have the meat. Actually, we're only still learning the basic doctrine of what they understood from the very beginning. We're trying to cement that basic idea of what's a disciple. Can I do it? Say? Right. So you've got to go through this process of ongoing refining and learning, but to get to where? You haven't even grabbed hold of the basic understanding. You know, I'm in two minds about doing this. I want to put together a little bit of a questionnaire for you guys. No names. And I want to, just one random Shabbat say, okay, there's going to be no recording. Here's a couple of questions I put together. Answer them. No research. Basic core understanding values. And then see what comes up. If I put you on the spot, how many things would you be able to explain? Would you be able to grab hold of them and say, yeah, don't worry, we've got meat here? Or would you start to recognize where you are? I don't know, God's got a sense of humor, right? 1 second we're talking about basics, and then we're talking about this, and then we're talking about the weave in between of everything, and then we come out the other end talking about something else. But that's because every single one of you are at different levels, and He's trying to touch every one of your hearts to be able to give you what you need. Okay, let's be honest. How many of you understand everything I say?
I don't understand.
Right? And there's nothing wrong with that, because there are times where you'll be sitting there going through the process, but recognizing where you are, that is the big stuff. Going through it and holding on to that and going through this process is about hungering. If you're not thirsty for the milk, you're never going to grow to be able to handle the meat. Do me a favor. Learn what's ingrained in those beautiful little eyes over there. When I want something, I will let you know. Nah. If you're a parent, it still haunts your dreams. You know, I never got that expression. Did you sleep like a baby? No, you woke up every 2 hours crying? Completely contradictory. But when they need it, they need it. There's no question. There's no issue. You will feed me now. Are you crying out to the Father for that food so you can be nourished? Or are you just clicking your fingers demanding things that you're not even sure you can handle? Father, I want to go into ministry. Really? Someone asked you a question about Jeremiah. So what do you think of Hosea? You know, Obadiah was a fascinating guy. I was quite surprised one day when I learned there was a book called Obadiah. 1 page long. You're like, I didn't even know this thing was in my Bible. Freshly downloaded. You know? But we go through the processes, and the more you spend time in the Word, the more you reveal God's character, the more you ingest God's character, the more you reflect God's character, the more you grow, the more responsibility, the more you grow. And slowly but up, He builds you up to a place when you go, you know enough about me, now come on, walk it. As a disciple, there's no excuse. I understand, I follow. It's very simple. And there's processes where He'll be gracious, where He'll ask you to, this is the mitzvah, what are you going to do about it? To get us to the point where we can hold on to Him and say, Abba, I need you to explain this thing to me because I'm just not seeing it. Or do you just shrink your hands and go, don't worry, we'll ask someone else? We got to acknowledge the fact that if there is malice, if there is deceit, if there is hypocrisy, if there is envy, if we are slandering people, if we are not thirsty for the Word, there is something wrong with us. As you come to Him, verse 4, the living stone. What's a stone? Someone Hebrew writes. Eben. What is Eben made up of? 2 words. Someone said it? Avben. Right? Is one of these cool little funny Hebrew words. Pronounced Eben, but broken up into 2 words. It's the Aleph that doubles as an F sound. What's an Av? Father. What's a Ben? Every time you hear pull up a stone, chief cornerstone, something like that, I want you to understand that Yeshua and Abba were working together. It says, as you come to Him, the living stone, rejected by, chosen by God, and precious to Him, you yourselves, as living stones, are being built into a spiritual house, to be kohanim, set apart for God. What's a kohen? Which one? I thought this was a priest. Is a Levi not a priest? Actually, no. There's a verse that says, all Levites are priests, but Kohanim are a section of said priests. Levi was one man and he had 3 sons. Yeah, come children, help me out.
Kohath.
What's the students first? Rory. Yes. Sean. All of these guys are living in, but only these guys are Kohanim. You with me? So when he says Kohanim, you need it's a certain section of this group that are allowed to deal with certain things. And within the section of Kohanim, we have two subsections. Normally translated as priests, and then we have Aaron's lineage. So just to explain it very simply, Moses, Miriam, and Aaron all came from the descendants of Kohath. But only Aaron was high priest. And only Aaron's sons could be high priests. Okay? Does that make sense? So we have a subsection. But what's cool about this is when we break it up into Paleo. Thank you, Brad Scott. When you look at the fancy bookmarks, you all go up. Kohen means something. Now let's break these two up, shall we? Start with Levi, it's easier. Huh? Generally translated as something that's joined or attached to. Okay? I have a slightly different slant on this. My heart is a lev, is a heart. The E part is a contractilation of my heart. It's a heart to me. Okay? Don't get lost on this. The Paleo does something different. Shepherd, each letter means something. The vav is a nail or will attach to the hand. Who's the good shepherd? Sure. Okay? Kingdom of Kohanim. What's a Kohen? Kaf means to allow, is to reveal the seed or the heir. Who is going to take control of the throne? Who is the heir? Yeshua. So if you're a kingdom of priests, and his job was to reveal the Father, what's your job? To reveal him. That's why he says, I do nothing by myself. I do what my Father tells me to. You will understand the Son because he kept Torah and followed the Father. And you will understand the Father because of the sacrifice of the Son. You cannot separate them. You are being built into a spiritual house, and Father and Son, that will reveal God. You represent him. What you say and do is someone else's reflection on who God is. If you are angry, if you are frustrated, if you are annoyed, if you are deceitful, if you're slanderous, your God says that's fine. Is it? If you have no faith, if you have no trust, God is untrustworthy. If you're arrogant, if you're rebellious, if it's all about you, do I need to carry on? To be a kingdom of priests. He's referencing, he's bringing a beautiful picture of Exodus 19. He repeats it in a slightly different way. The king's Kohanim, a holy nation, people set apart for him. He's trying to get you to understand something. When he came down at Sinai, he gave, God descended, the kingdom of the heaven started to be established on earth. And when that kingdom came, the king was there. And as the word was given, Yeshua, written by the Ruach HaKodesh, people were there to reserve it, to read it, to revere it, to safeguard it, because they made a decision before that. They said, I want to belong to Him. It is your free will, your choice. But you do not get the blessings of being a kingdom servant without the responsibility. And you don't get to stay in the congregation if you live immorally. You cannot have God and our sin and say, yes, please, I'll take both. How long has it been going on? And the father sits there, and I'm sure his heart breaks every time you sit down and you think it's okay. It's not. You're either holy in Him, set apart, sanctified, completely sold out to Him, or you're not. There's no time to play games. You make a decision, you live by it. How am I supposed to talk to someone about salvation when I don't believe He's coming to fetch me? If I can't trust the pages, that means I can't trust God. If I can't trust God, how am I supposed to convince anybody else? And they don't have to see it being played out, they hear it in what you say. Let me ask you something. As a South African, do you think God's in control of this country? Did He bring Nebuchadnezzar? Did He bring Babylon? Did He bring Cyrus? There is not one person put in power without Him learning about it. Are you praying for the person in power? And if they walk away from God, are you praying for Him? You say, Father, this one is not reflecting you. You need to move it because there's damage. We make up our own agendas. We don't like it the way it's being done, so therefore we say, no way, not going to happen. Babylon comes knocking on your door and you say, no. They're not going to come into God's house until they do. We use the same logic about Him coming back. So you believe He's coming to fetch you. Your bag's back. We hold on to things. We don't believe it, and we don't act like it. Because you're worried about your career, you're worried about your school, you're worried about your friends, you're worried about sport, you're worried about if this person likes me, if that person likes me, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to do that, how are we going to do that tomorrow, and what we're going to do for lunch. How do you know you're going to be here for lunch? Well, man, our perceptions have got to change. You get told your whole entire lives, you've got to put those. It was always told in management classes, let your goals be simple, measurable, attainable. That smart little slogan they try to teach people. Like, okay, let's put all that in one basket, shall we? No, you're not allowed to do that, but we're gone. God is God or He's not. He either loves me or He doesn't. He either died for me or He didn't. I'm either His or I'm not. So what am I putting my faith in? Your retirement annuity? Your career path? Are you banking on the fact that no matter how bad it gets, that others are going to come and fetch you? And no matter what we face, no matter who likes us and who doesn't like us, no matter how weird they say we are because we take off funny days during the week and we wear funny kosokis on our belts. It does not matter what the world thinks. They will never like you. They didn't like Yeshua. They will not like you. And instead of sulking about it, rejoice. Celebrate. Because that means I'm getting something right. Doesn't mean I have to go out and annoy people. It just means that I have to stand for the need. He's building you into our house, living stones. Remember, he was standing over there looking at a big cliff face at Banyas. And he said, what? Upon this rock, I'm going to build my church. the foundational statement that Yeshua is Messiah. In Luke, if you back translated into Hebrew, Ata Mashiach El, you are Messiah God. Of doesn't exist. That's something we put in to make more sense. The Messiah of God reads nicer if you don't like the idea that there's an Echad. But if you say he is Messiah God, as the Hebrew says, then there's an Echad that is so interwoven that we probably don't really understand much about. And that's okay, because God is unfathomable. He gives us little pictures of himself to help us understand who he is and how he relates to us. How much more do you need to know than Daddy's coming to fetch me? That's all you need. And you need to be making yourself ready. You need to be getting rid of all the chach. You need to be focusing on him making you a living stone. When they would have put a pile of stones and they would anoint it, and then some person would come past you and say, something big happened here. You are that stone for people. There was ruins lying on the floor. God picked it up all broken and useless. And he built a little monument unto himself, his glory, his saving grace, his love. And when people walk past you and they go, what happened here? What do you say? Watch this space, it's not done. He's building us together. I'm going to finish off with this. How many of you realize that if bricks don't want to stay together, your house is not going to be very strong? You understand why he had to tell them to get rid of their malice, get rid of their deceit, get rid of all the issues? Stop pushing against each other so that you can actually pull into one another. Our job is not to judge people. Our job is to tell them what God thinks about it and say, that was a mistake, let's get this right. I've done plenty of my own. If you're going to carry on continuing that mistake, then you need to go sit outside the camp for a while. But if you make teshuvah, you come and you sit here and we're going to do this together. I want you by my side. I want you both in and we're going to hold up. For what point is this spiritual house? What was the point of God building a Mishkan? Because he wants to put something in. Why do you think he starts talking about it and he says, you are 10? It's not singular, you are the house. Number one. The point of all of that design work, all of that preparation, all of that investment, all of those visions, just so that God could say, when I come inside, you know it's me. When 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, how many of you believed it when you came up the stairs this morning? Do you have more than 2 or 3 in your house? Well, you got a problem. The stuff you were doing at home is also where he gets. So what's going on in your house? Are you seeing deceit? Are you seeing malice? Are you seeing slander? Or are you trying to let go of those things so that you can become such a solid unit that when you pull in line with other believers, there is no room for the enemy to try and break through? Enough of the old. That person's on a tree. Become the new. Let go enough, be vulnerable enough that he can fold that gap. And for those of us that have been doing it for a while, guys, help me out here. How many of you have regretted taking that step? Nice to see. How many of you are super excited that you had that moment with God and then he came to stay with you forever? Ever regretted it? Not once. So let's continue to let him do the work. Let's continue to grow. Let's continue to let go of the past and become who we're meant to be, so that he can fulfill the plans and purposes for your life in his kingdom. Amen? There's one thing I want to say, if you guys will give me another second. I was listening to a rabbi, and he was saying something I think is extremely important. We've gone into a very bad habit of not praising God enough. right? And this guy's entire ministry is about saying 3 words. Toda lecha. Okay, the Hebrew spells that too, but you get it. Toda lecha, thanks be to you. Everything. He does good things for those who love him. Now I can look at some tough situations that we've had to face, and I can go, well, Abba, this obviously is someone's sin messing up. And I can go, you didn't want that. And he goes, yeah, no, I didn't. But at the same time, I can say, thank you for bringing it up because that thing was there all along. Now we can deal with it. Now you can fix the heart because there's no longer a mask. I can say, thanks be to God for everything that I have. You have an opportunity to pick up your Bible every day. How many of you have said, Toda lecha? You have a choice to become a disciple, and you said, Toda lecha. When we looked at your family, Toda lecha. Have you looked at this fellowship? Toda lecha. Even in difficulties, Toda lecha. Because you put me in those things not to kill me, but to build me. You want to refine me. Let me be refined, Abba. Get rid of the bad stuff here. I don't want to be that stuff. Toda lecha. If you run, you justify, you only work in opposition. If you praise him, even for the little you have. You know, I went through a time when I really asked Abba about the business, and please understand this is testimony. It's me not talking about work. Just if you could just help us break through this little bit more. If you could just give us that extra. You know what he did? He took away that little extra and we started going in reverse. And I went, ah. He said, you weren't grateful for where you are. Now let me tell you how you would long to get back to that space where you were. So now when rough times come, Baruch Hashem, we have what we have. You owe people lots of money. Baruch Hashem, we're still open. And you guys know I work a half day on Friday and I work on a Tuesday. The rest of the time you guys allowed me to free me up to be able to do this. And I went in and I was switching off the lights, and they've had a really rough week. It's rather free walking in there going, what's going on? And I really don't care. I'm like, Abba, you need to take care of this. I'm about your business, so I'm going to be over there helping people instead. I've entrusted him to take care of everything there. And I